Hey guys, welcome back. Sports with Mano Imano. And it is the 20th of May. Lots to get to. Obviously, we'll start off with the PGA. Actually, this segment is going to be sponsored by De Filippi's Bakery from Monticello, New York.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. So, we're going to start with the PGA, right? And we talked about it last week. You know, we both had our thoughts about who was going to win, and both
Let's
of
cut
them
to
came
the
in.
chase. We sized it up pretty good.
I think so.
And Brooks Koepka is a deserving champ. It's really a pleasure to watch this guy. So now with his resume, 2 back-to-back U.S. Opens and now 2 back-to-back PGA championships.
Yeah.
That's 4 majors for the kid. There's a lot of stats thrown about him. He just joined an exclusive club of having 4 majors, under 30, things of that nature.
First time to win, 2 majors in less than a year.
Yeah.
Right?
We could go on, but, he obviously got out to a great start, had a great first round, really, separated himself from the field.
Started to get a little dicey at the end.
Well, we're getting to that. But, listen, the course played well. I mean, the sun came out. Guys were, 3 under, 4 under, and Brooks was, basically 12, 11 under, had that cushion.
Yep.
It really, nothing seems to bother him on a course, like whether he hits a good shot, a bad shot. But, the elephant in the room again is Dustin Johnson. So I predicted Dustin, to win, and
He gave it a run.
He
certainly
gave it a
great run.
But I got to tell you, doing some, looking back on Dustin, obviously, he was in contention there, gave it a good run, like you said. I don't know if he's got some, Phil Mickelson in him when it comes to the majors of, being a bridesmaid. Just looked it up. 2010 U.S. Open in contention, messes up a shot late, comes in second. Gives the U.S. Open Championship to Jordan Spieth at Chambers course.
Chambers Bay.
Yep, 2015.
Yep.
And I could even point to a British Open 2011. And again, which is stark for me, is that I'm going back to 2010 and 11, and it's 2019. I mean, Dustin's been around now for, 12, 13 years.
No, he's certainly no rookie. That's a tough comparison to put him in Mickelson's category because he's got 6, 7 majors.
I'm just saying he's trending towards,
Greg Norman-ish? How
Well,
about
the point
that?
is Dustin's got 1 major, and Dustin conceivably could have 4. He could be in Brooks' territory. But let's get back to Brooks Koepka, right? So yesterday we were all watching. He's cruising along, and then he hits the stretch, right? 4 bogeys in a row. But the wind was now kicking in. The course became a completely different animal for the last 9 holes of the tournament.
Let me touch on that because we talked about the course coming into play, right? We considered it, this is a bomber's course. You put it in that fairway, you got a great chance to win. You put it in that rough, you have no chance. And that's exactly what happened to him at the last back 9 and so forth. You find the rough and then you pay the price. And fortunately, he was so far ahead, and his first 3 days were, off the charts that he had that cushion. And Dustin Johnson on his heels has not been able to close the deal. So it kind of went as we thought, and I'm happy that I thought Koepka was that kind of guy. He's big time major guy. I love his composure.
His mental approach is great.
Yeah,
Physically, he's a specimen.
10 years from now, he's only 26 years old, 27 tops.
No, he's 20. He's bordering 29, because he's got 3 majors left. He's definitely 29. So next calendar year he'll turn 30.
All right.
Back to that stat. But here was another thing. So Koepka has 4 bogeys in a row, right? And like you said, Greg Norman, are we going to see the biggest collapse? Because I think he had the biggest lead, right?
Certainly in Masters history, that's
Right.
for sure.
But I thought this was interesting. So because Dustin was what a hole ahead of him or so,
Yep.
right? So Koepka knows that he's up one. However, he's in between, I think, the 15th and heading to the 16th, or he's going on 15 or 16. But he knows that Dustin just bogeyed now. So he knows now that the lead is back up to 2. And Koepka in his press conference or in one of the interviews afterwards said that was huge, that he could take a deep breath and realize now that he's got 2-shot swing here, right? Now listen, Dustin's credit with this wind and everything, it was affecting, these guys were missing by 25 yards, man. Right, so Dustin airmails it behind the green, right, on what, 17, I think, right? And right then and there, you kind of knew that Koepka was going to get his composure back. It was a great tournament at the end of the day. You know, Koepka wins. It's just so impressive, and he's all about the majors, apparently, man. So.
Hey. And listen, let's also acknowledge one of our fans who actually, you know, we picked a couple long shots. Yours truly here also said Patrick Cantley
Right.
could be a factor. Ended up coming third, and,
Right, and
one of our listeners picked Luke List to be
our resident golf expert, George.
to make some noise, and he certainly did.
He was in contention. He was, what did he get to, maybe 4 or 5 under at some point?
Yeah.
Always about 5 or 6, but like you saw what happened with Koepka, he came back to the field.
Yep.
And then one other interesting thing about Koepka was he was the first wire-to-wire PGA winner since Hal Sutton,
Yep.
1983,
Yeah.
right? So there's a lot of...
Remember when Hal Sutton was on quite a roll for that one stretch for
Yeah.
over 3-year period.
and that's for our older fans, obviously.
He was unbeatable. You know, I always said Johnny Miller look-alike to me. Yeah, that's going way back. But congratulations to Brooke Koepka. I think Beth Page put on a great show.
That,
I want to bring up one little point though about. I know the Ryder Cup is at Bethpage in 2024,
okay.
and I always got this worry though that those rambunctious fans at the Ryder Cup could almost embarrass the United States with the way they're going to treat the Europeans and so forth. And I mean, I know we get it on both sides of the ocean and so forth, but that makes me a little nervous. You know, these New York guys drinking Long Island iced teas all day long, and especially, I mean, Sergio Garcia, he better hope he's not on the team because they're going to eat him for lunch.
I mean, obviously, we're immune to, being that we grew up in this area. But that's a great point for our national fans who are watching a tournament, a major, it could be any golf tournament. But there is a different vibe around the course, and you hear some...
You don't want the fans and the gallery to be the story of play. That's my biggest concern. But
Right.
I think Beth Page put on a great show. The course was awesome, and congratulations again to Bruce Koepka.
Yep.
So, next segment, right? Our Preakness, sponsored by Coriano Trucking Incorporated. One of our newer sponsors, but Guy and Coriano Trucking, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Guy.
The Preakness. Okay, so let's go on record. I'll even start it. I my picks were Bourbon War. I liked Win Win Win, and I liked War Will. Those were my 3 horses. I don't have any explanation as to why these horses. I mean, War Will ended up winning the thing, but where was Bourbon War? Where was Win Win Win? Where was Improbable? I have no explanation at all as to how that rate. The conditions were fine,
Right.
right? I'm just at a loss for words, you know.
And obviously what made news is Bodie Express coming off with Hall of Fame jockey Jorge Velasquez.
Still at the gate.
Literally still at the gate. You watch this jockey fall off the horse. The horse was quite unruly getting in, so on and so forth. But
And that was kind of funny, actually.
it was great. I mean, you're watching a horse run around basically within contention of winning, and could you imagine Ichabod Crane running on the.
Unbelievable. No, it was, but like I said, from a horse racing perspective, I just don't have any explanation.
No,
I really don't.
You know, previous show I said improbable. Where was improbable? Nowhere to be found.
Yep.
Um,
One of the popular picks was Owendale and so forth. He didn't show up, but Bourbon War was the big surprise because I told you he had well rested coming into the race, had 5 weeks off from the Florida Derby, and he was nowhere to be seen. Crazy.
it's been a crazy Triple Crown again with the disqualification in the Kentucky Derby. Now the riderless horse in the Preakness. What's up next? So beware Belmont of some wacky thing that may happen in Belmont.
Exactly. So now you got to look at it, right? I mean, there's incredibly long shot. What was it? Country House,
Yeah, 65-1.
right? Pays huge. Everlast comes in second at the Preakness pick. So take a flyer on a long shot in the way that things are
That's
going in
the
the Belmont.
advice. You got nothing to lose.
Right.
There's really no rhyme or reason this year as to what's happened in the hunt for the Triple Crown.
And we'll certainly talk about the upcoming Belmont, but that's 3 weeks away.
That's
so
3 weeks away.
I think
Interesting.
Tacitus will come back and he'll run it, but I'm probably I'm not sure what the field's going to look like. It's a brutal race. It's a mile and a half, and it's the toughest. That's why it's always so impossible to win the Triple Crown.
All right, 20 horses, Kentucky Derby. 12 went off at the Preakness, so
Yep.
chances are there should be less, right?
Yeah, it'll probably be the same.
Right.
I look for 12, 13 horses, but most of them will be,
Yeah.
long shot. I think Maximum Security end up coming back into the mix, and probably go off as the favorite with
It's a good
Tacitus.
call. That wants to redeem himself, especially the owner, the trainer.
Yeah.
Thinking they got a screw job there. We'll see the health of the horse, though.
But you're right, Steve. There's no Triple Crown, not even close this year. It's
No.
just been chaos,
Right.
But it still doesn't diminish how cool the Belmont Stakes is. I mean, I just love it and can't help but think about what's the greatest memory of Belmont that's ever in horse racing history.
Secretariat, 1973.
Oh my God.
But still-
31 and a half lengths.
Oh,
I mean,
God,
it was. I got goosebumps still watching it.
It's still one of the greatest sports moments. We're old enough to remember watching it live. Watched it live in our house growing up.
Yep.
And really, it's just one of the privileges to watch that horse go around the track as it did.
Big Red.
Big Red, no doubt.
Oh God, it was so.
Got to be the
unbelievable.
best of history. There's no question.
But to win a race by 31 and a half lengths, to me is, and he was actually, I think he was the Time Man of the Year that year. Believe it or not.
Well deserved.
Of course. And the movie is excellent, by the way. I don't know if you've
Well,
seen it.
Diane Lane is Penny Shernaway, the owner.
It's worth a watch, though. It's
Hey, listen,
that
if
horse
anybody
is-
wants to watch a movie on Secretariat, absolutely highly recommend it and get a good historical perspective on how she found the horse, how she bred the horse, and the jockey Ron Turcotte
Yep.
became paralyzed after the race. Not because of the race, but just I think he had an accident.
Yep.
Within a few years, and it's a great story in Big Red Secretariat.
But the
Glad
fact
you
that
brought him up.
that we're sports guys inside and out, and to say one of the greatest moments in sports history was that race in 1973.
I'm 8 years old, and what are you, 10 maybe at that point,
I was 10.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, all timer. But at the end of the day, there's still one more race for Belmont, and I can guarantee if the weather cooperates, 150 to 175 typically. show
Nah,
up
they
for
won't
that.
get that for this.
They'll get over 100,000.
Yeah, because it's New York, and it's going to be, if it's a beautiful day, they
Want
certainly
to go
will.
drink some beers at the Belmont? Sure.
Yeah.
So that's our recap on the Preakness.
All right, so we'll touch base on the Belmont in about 2 weeks. 'Cause we got
Got
a
it.
3-week layoff. So what do we want to move on to? Obviously, let's talk about the NBA because we're getting down to the wire there. And this segment is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut, loyal supporter of our show, and we thank them again. So, the NBA playoffs, Warriors look unbeatable.
Nah, let's go to the main topic news. What was that? So Jim and I actually made a point of being together. Was it Thursday night of last week?
Yeah, Wednesday.
Right, something Wednesday, a little draft lottery action, Zion and the ping pong balls, and you know.
And I'll take a left hook to the chin on that. 'Cause
I will
thought
too,
that- I
but
thought
we
there
were
was-
both adamant that the conspiracy was going to be, and I'll still say, I think the NBA missed the. I'm not condoning, obviously, fixing it. However, I don't know how they do it, but the NBA missed an opportunity to land Zion in New York, and I think that would have been good for business
Big time.
all around. However, I was comforted by, let's just say, the integrity of it all, that at the end of the day, the New Orleans Pelicans get the number one pick, and now they get the rights to Zion. So, let's just talk about as the picks are coming down.
Yep.
So, I got few texts from listeners, friends, once the Lakers got number 4 pick. So we could, obviously, backtrack on all the picks, but for that fleeting moment, there was probably a 45-second to a minute window where you and I looked at each other and go, holy Christ, I think they're going to get the number 1 pick. Guys were texting, it's in the bag, Norton, get the bag, right? No honeymooners reference, right? Not to be. So with the 3rd pick, you see the Knick logo come out. And I got to tell you, it's not the worst case scenario for them.
Well, because
Your thoughts?
it's such a loaded draft that I think obviously the grand prize was Zion, right? But there's still this John Morant. He's going to be a player in this league, no question.
Memphis got the 2nd pick. They've already said they're picking him,
Right.
And they should.
And you and I were talking before the show about whether or not the Knicks will trade the 3rd pick, which is obviously usually going to be consensus
Barrett.
R.J. Barrett. And I say I don't see any reason to that. I think he could be a franchise guard. Yes, they don't have a lot around them, but this is the free agent market. They got tons of money. They're going to give it to either Irving and Durant and.
Well,
But talk about your point.
Well,
where
let's
you
just say, I mean, Durant, if he wants to come here, you can lock him in for one of the max deals, right? So here comes the debate now with the Anthony Davis situation. Is he going to stay in New Orleans with Zion? I
No.
still think he's out the door. Okay, so now you got to trade for him. So the fact that Zion is in New Orleans and you have the R.J. Barrett connection at number 3. Now let's remember the Knicks have some capital in the fact on the Porzingis trade. They got at least one number 1, if not 2 number 1s. Okay, maybe next year, the year after. I don't care who's on the Knicks roster currently as it stands. Pick a guy, pick as many guys as you want. My point is the Knicks are going to explore trying to get Anthony Davis. So what happens now? Do you sign Kyrie Irving? You're giving up R.J. Barrett. Do you not sign Kyrie Irving? And then if you're trading for Anthony Davis, then obviously he's worthy of a max slot. So where does that leave you? It leaves you thin at guard. And I'm going to say at the end of the day, though, they're probably not going to get Davis. I see it with Irving, Durant. You keep R.J. Barrett as insurance and let this kid grow.
And then you have maybe a formidable team, but I think I don't see Davis coming to New York. I think the price is too high. I think the Lakers. He wants to play with LeBron James.
I get that, but listen, we just talked before the show today. So Magic Johnson makes his first appearance in the press since resigning. It's a disaster in LA. It really is. And the fact is, don't get me wrong, they have the draft capital, they have the players, they can make a play for them, right? Boston, don't discount that because they also have a lot of capital.
And they'll free it up with getting rid of Irving because he's not to me. The Knicks will probably sign him, but that's typical Knicks.
Typical Knicks and typical that.
You're getting a guy on the downside of his career.
My knee. But that's the point is you have R.J. Barrett as a backup there. Not a backup to Kyrie, but a backup all-star guard
I got you. I
that
understand.
can come in. So this is a perfect topic that we'd love to hear from our audience. Sports with mono and mono at gmail.com. There's a lot of moving parts here, so we'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
Yep.
But I got to think the Knicks, once again, they're going to explore all trade opportunities. So the point is that number 3 pick, it's not the worst case scenario. Is it Zion? No. But I think the Knicks actually have the ability to be creative. Now let's also be real here. They've botched crap up for 20 years. I don't have any confidence in Steve Mills. Their general manager, Scott Perry, relatively new on the job. This is probably his second year. Let's hope he's a basketball guy.
I have zero credibility in that front office, especially with that Bozo Dolan who's running the show.
I'm trying to be nice here.
I understand. I understand.
So let's get to basketball. So we had talked about you liked the Portland matchup with Golden State. I said I didn't. Golden State's up 3-0. They come back from 2 games where down double digits at halftime. I think Lillard's hurt. I just don't think they got the horses. I wouldn't be surprised if Portland wins 1 game tonight.
I'm a little surprised they didn't. This wasn't more formidable. That it's not at least 2-1 at some point.
Especially with Durant out for Golden State.
And I think you're right. If Lillard's hurt, and then all they got is McCallum, and that's not enough against the Thompsons. And this guy Iguodala comes off. Not that he's come out of nowhere. He's a solid player.
And
But
he's hurt a little bit now.
But he stepped up big time.
Yeah, but I think with Portland, with Lillard hurt, and of course with the Turkish death threats to Enes Kanter, it can't be good for the locker room in Portland. So let's just hope there's extra security tonight.
Right, when the bomb squad has to open up your locker, you start to wonder, is this the place for me?
We couldn't resist on the Enes Kanter jokes here.
Yeah,
but,
right,
let's hope Enes is okay and
We don't make light of terrorism.
has his
of course.
full security detail at his beck and call.
But it looks like that series is over. And hey, look, in the East, Leonard's playing his heart out. I'm really tipping my hat to him, man. This guy has not packed it in. He didn't want to go to Toronto, but he seems to really have embraced the fact that he's the focal point of that franchise.
Yeah, it was a big win for them last night. Went to double overtime. I mean, any team down 2-0, you're going home. That's a must-win game. They shut Giannis down. It's the first time he's been shut down since Game 1 of the Boston series.
All year.
But this guy is a beast.
I still see them. I don't see Toronto winning the series.
I don't either. I'll go with Milwaukee pulling it out, whether it goes 6 or 7. And
look, you know what? That sets up actually really just a great final. I mean, you want to see marquee guys. You got Giannis and Curry and Thompson. I mean, that's great for the league. People are going to watch.
they'll tune in. There's no question.
I just don't think Toronto has enough besides Kawhi Leonard to make it
this
a
guy
horse race.
Siakam, who had a great series against 76ers, needs to step it back up.
Yep.
But we'll go with Milwaukee Golden State final.
Okay. So let's move on to the NHL, and I got to tell you, I'm surprised. The St. Louis Blues are actually leading that series.
Yeah.
I had picked the Sharks.
In spite of the St. Louis Blues getting absolutely freaking hosed a couple games ago.
Yep.
Okay.
That was a bad call.
Game winner in overtime. You couldn't have had a more blatant hand pass than what I saw on that play.
I know, but you know what, though?
It's one of those things where it's
Not
non-reviewable. And listen, I get that. But
So they missed
to
it.
be
That's all.
fair, we had to point that out. It was one of the more egregious ones I've seen. And then you're waiting for that to be reviewed, and it turns out it's one of those plays that can't be.
Yep.
But listen, that aside, St. Louis gets hosed on that. We'll give them credit because they were down 2-1, and now they're up 3-2. Now, are they coming home? Yeah, they won in San Jose, so they're coming home.
I still see it going 7 because, I mean, that would be exciting.
Well, St. Louis they have a better record on the road in the playoffs than they do at home. Not saying they can't win Game 6 and clinch it and get ready for Boston, but I can see it going Game 7 too. It's been that type of NHL playoffs. So
Oh, kind of pulling for the Blues,
I'm
actually.
pulling for him actually.
Because, like you said, this hometown kid, forgot his name,
Patrick Maroon.
Maroon.
Yep.
That's quite a Cinderella story. you
Yeah,
know.
and there's some backstories. David Backus is on Boston, and St. Louis traded him a couple years ago. He's a really solid hockey player. So there's some backstories with the same. And if I remember correctly, and it just came to me, but am I wrong in saying the iconic Bobby Orr overtime goal, right, where he gets clipped at the knee, scores, and dives in midair? If I remember correctly, that was against the St. Louis Blues.
He's so focused on Orr in the air, I don't even know if
I'm
I
going
can
to ask
tell-
my Boston contingent for confirmation on that one, but I have a feeling.
I'm
that
going to
was
tell you, I
against
want to
St.
say
Louis.
something because I saw that play obviously over the course of the
And it literally
playoff.
just came to me.
I don't really think he was tripped. Actually, he was on his feet, scored the goal. I think he just dove into the air.
Could have been.
If you look at it
A
closely,
celebration, sure.
it was more of a celebration than a trip.
Yeah.
And if you guys disagree out there, please send us an email and say you got to look at it again. But I thought I looked at it very closely,
Right?
and it was, I mean, one of the most iconic pictures in sports, obviously. But it was great.
Yes.
But that you got to worry about the Bruins. They're going to be well rested. This is a war, St. Louis and San Jose. And while we're on St. Louis, obviously, let's bring up the Rangers' new general manager, former head of the St. Louis Blues. Didn't really knock it out of the park when he was in St. Louis. Did a much better job in Columbus, and now the Rangers giving him free reign. What do you think of that, John Davidson?
Well, I believe we had predicted that here on Sports with Mono and Mono, like a little over a month ago.
You did.
I think it's a great move. He's iconic. Listen, JD.
Iconic is why? Because he took him to
Because
Stanley
he-
Cup Finals.
No, because he's a Ranger. He loves the New York Rangers. I mean, he obviously was a goaltender. Do we put him in Richter category?
Jockman.
No, we don't.
Not at all.
Right? Yeah. I mean, 79, he got us to the final. Had a great year. Not discounting that. But listen.
What was our father's nickname for John Davidson?
You get
Floppy.
Floppy? Yeah. Well, Floppy is now the president of the organization.
And I think they're moving in the right direction.
But my point for our Ranger fans is I think everybody buys into Davidson as his love of the Rangers. And especially, come on, we grew up listening to him after Bill Chadwick and Jim Gordon and him and Rosen, right? What was behind in the booth? 20, 25 years, right? Loves the New York Rangers. The fact is, the only team he would leave is for the New York Rangers. Davidson, I think, has got to be, 66, 67. So you figure he'll be around for at least a 5, 6, 7 year run.
But here's my take on it. I mean,
I'm down with the move.
I'm not against the move. I'm just saying, I think I remember when he left the booth, he said the only way he was going to leave the booth was for his dream job of running the St. Louis Blues, because he came up with the Blues.
Right?
And now he's saying his dream job has always been the Rangers. So I don't know. I'm a little...
Yeah. So, for my own peace of mind, I don't need to hear from the Boston contingent. It was the St. Louis Blues, Bobby Orr's iconic goal.
Okay.
It was just in the back
Good
of my head. But I'm down with the move.
Okay.
And I think I said on the show about a month ago, because of his Columbus ties, right? So he started in St. Louis, and now he just left Columbus. And listen, both teams that he was part of have been good.
I can't
Okay?
give him any credit for St. Louis, though. He didn't do anything when he was there, and
Okay.
now. But Columbus, I'll give him credit for that. I
But
think.
I want this Panarin kid on Columbus, and we talked about him a couple weeks back, that he wants to be a Ranger. He's a viable goal scorer, young kid, maybe 27, 28.
Maybe that
We
was
got
part of
money.
the deal, saying
So Ranger fans, let's see if Panarin comes, and he'll be a great addition with all the draft picks we got.
they get the second pick. Devils
We
have
have the
first.
second pick,
Yep.
and it looks like we're going to get this Capo Cannon. I can't. It's a weird last name, I don't know what the pronunciation is.
European guy?
He's a Finnish left winger,
Right,
17 years old, but
Yep.
he's a bona fide player, and I look forward to having him in the fold.
All right. Listen, like I said, I'm happy and I'm on board with the direction. I love the coach of the Rangers. I love the youth he's bringing in.
Yep.
And, you know, I don't think Davidson could hurt. And I think it was good for a change, you know.
Yeah. So welcome back to New York, Mr. Davidson.
Good luck.
Right?
Got your work cut out for you.
Yes, they do. I mean, again, let's be real for Ranger fans. We're another year or two away before we get rid of Lundqvist and that albatross of a contract. And, you know.
I think we're in good shape with Georgiev. I like him too. I mean,
Yeah,
he seems like he's going to be the guy.
Is he the guy? Don't know. I know they have another kid in the system, and they'll be scrounging for.
But they know they got to make this move with Lundqvist at some point in time. They got to cut ties. He just hasn't gotten it done. You know,
Yeah, I'm tired of Hank.
all the records you want. You know, Richter got a Stanley Cup. You don't, Hank.
That's right.
So let's touch base. Let's move on to
Major League Baseball.
Major League Baseball. Some interesting stuff going on. Steve and I, we talked before the show about the Mets and the Yankees, and it must be driving the Mets crazy that the Yankees have been decimated with injuries and they're still winning baseball games. And what did we talk about with the Mets? To me, it seems like the same old Mets. They got they signed Lowry, he went down. They signed Cano, gave him the bank. Lazy dog.
We'll circle back to one Robinson Cano.
I
Go
just-
on.
But I was never impressed with what the Mets did in the offseason. I never thought they had, outside of their pitching staff, had a formidable lineup to contend. Yeah, it's kind of a weekend at National League East. However, they're going right down the road I thought they were. That's just my opinion.
No,
And I'm not even, you know, you called Callaway's demise at some point about a month ago, and I'll give you the credit you deserve there, because I think you have to hold him accountable, but I also hold Van Wagenen accountable. That's just my opinion. He's too in the mix. He's meeting with players, and he's like, I mean, let the guy manage. That's what the manager is for.
So, the point is, Brody Van Wagenen is the Mets' new GM. What was Brody Van Wagenen prior to becoming a GM?
Sports agent.
Yeah, wasn't a GM any other time before that, right? Who was his main client as an agent?
Jacob deGrom.
One of them. And one Robinson Cano.
Oh, that I didn't know.
Okay, and the reason we're bringing up Cano, so let me backtrack. So when we did our little preview of the Mets, listen, obviously with the pitching staff, okay, I think when we spoke, deGrom was just about to get his extension, well deserved, and he still is. We're both, and
100% on board.
100%
with that.
deGrom fans.
Absolutely.
Right move to do, well deserved, Cy Young, etc.
Yep.
To your point, do they have a formidable lineup, and now they're inserting kids. So this kid Pete Alonso, we've talked about him. He's probably leading candidate, and I know it's May, Rookie of the Year.
Oh, it's a lock
Good
already.
young player.
Absolutely.
Rosario at short, good young player.
I don't know.
I think he's going to. I think he'll pan out.
I've seen enough of him to say he's not blowing me out of the water. Actually.
So here we are, right? Now,
Maybe McNeil is the other one kid
Okay.
who seems like he can hit.
but who factored him in? Yeah, you know what? I think Jeff McNeil's going to bat 360 and
Nobody.
Exactly, right? So here's the point. You're in May, and I said, listen, I expected the Mets to be. I didn't say they were going to win the division, but I said they should be better than 500. Okay, so they should have 85, 86, maybe 87 wins. That's what I said, right, a month or two ago.
Okay.
So here we are, let's fast forward. So now they're slowly but surely drowning. Okay? They
20
off,
and 25.
They got off to the good start. We talked about it. Not the start they had last year before they imploded, but if I remember correctly, they were 10 and 6. And where are they now? They're 20 and 25, if not 20 and 26 after yesterday. So, excuse me. So what happens? They go to Miami. They go to play the worst baseball team in Major League Baseball right now as constituted. And what do? they get swept. They get swept by the Miami Marlins. And now you have Robinson Cano at age 36, who has 5 years remaining on his deal. And like we said earlier, was Van Wagenen's client in a past life. And this guy, watching this, I don't care if that ball was fair or foul, right? It's unwatchable. And what do? So Mickey Callaway, after the game, I'm listening to the press conference. What does a manager do? You defend your player, right? Does he know he's completely wrong? And also, Cano, by the way, had an incident of the non-hustle. But also, we've known that as Yankees.
Got a history of it.
There's a history of it.
History of it.
So now it's a PR disaster, right? So Callaway defends him, rightfully so. Then Van Wagenen obviously is seething up in the and Jeff Wilpon, right? So then they have a circus press conference today.
And gave him the vote of confidence that Callaway is the right guy,
Right.
they're moving in the right direction.
So I'm going to go on record right now. Callaway is going to be out in a matter of probably 2 weeks, would be my guess.
Wow.
I think they'll wait until I think they play the Nationals in Detroit. They have a homestand of 7 games.
Wow.
Then they go west to the Dodgers, Diamondbacks. I'm going to say Riggleman will be the interim guy, and I'll predict 2 weeks, maybe a month. He's out. I just feel it. I think they have to make the move. Jim Riggleman, experienced guy, will be the interim guy. Then they have to make a
All right.
splash off season. If I'm out there, hello Buck Show, Walter. What are you doing?
How about Joe Girardi?
Those and him. Those are the 2 most viable guys. I think the Mets to make a splash. However, could they turn the ship around? Possibly. I don't see it.
I don't see it
think
either.
it's dysfunction, and it's unfortunate for the Mets, and I think it's just going to be.
And we're
another
not
one.
just knocking the Mets
I'm
and
not.
praising the Yankees.
Not doing it.
We're talking about it as a
We're
situation.
talking reality.
You know, I mean, I'm just as impressed on the converse side with Minnesota Twins. I mean, look, these guys are lights out. They're knocking everybody off,
Ron Gardenhire.
and nobody expected them. You know, so, I mean, that's how baseball is, right? The Yankees are having just a miracle start to a season with decimated with injuries and so forth. But I like the Minnesota Twins.
You mentioned them a few weeks back,
Yeah.
so let's keep our eye out on them.
We shall.
Okay.
So other than that, there's not a heck of a lot going on in baseball and so forth. And listen, before we sign off, I just want to. You and I had a conversation about it. It's not the NFL season. I mean, however, the mini camp has started and so forth.
Well, there's been a couple big news. in
Yeah, the Jet
NFL.
situation, which was that's kind of where I was going with it.
It's odd.
Isn't it?
It's very odd.
But don't you want to just say this is the typical Jets, similar to you say the typical Mets,
And it's funny
the
how
typical Knicks?
it is, because the cast of characters seem to switch all the time, right? So Mike McCagnon now has been in the catbird seat for 4 years, maybe going on his 5th. Let's say 4,
All right.
to be safe.
Okay.
Okay. So who is he instrumental in hiring? Adam Gase. Who is Adam Gase, right? Oh, he's the quarterback whisperer who was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, who had a 23-25 record, comes across as an arrogant prick, let's be honest, okay?
I don't get this whole thing. Now I start to wonder, was McCagnon instrumental in hiring Adam Gase?
He
Or
had
did,
to have, some say, let's be real. Now,
it doesn't sound like they ever got along. I can't imagine.
Well,
what
let's
he
get
would
back
have
to
done.
McCagnon. Can we all agree, has he been the best general manager? No. Has he been the worst general manager?
No.
Absolutely not. Did he whiff? Yeah, Darren Lee and obviously Christian Hackenberg.
Okay.
The second round pick in his first draft. Inexcusable, yes. However, he is trending upward. Okay. Now you entrust $125 million in cap to sign Bell, Mosley. You have a lot of dough, right?
Yeah.
Now you draft,
And
who
you got
a lot
Darnold.
of people think, and obviously is getting a Darnold. He makes the trade to get to the 3rd spot. So my point is, this guy's got some momentum, okay, building this roster. And now the unfortunate thing for Jet fans is you're owned by the Johnson brothers, who for our Get Smart fans.
And Saturday Night Live, you may actually
Early
remember
Saturday
it more.
Night fans. If those out there know who Buck Henry is, and if you don't, we highly recommend you get a visual of Buck Henry.
Dead ringer
for Woody, right? So the point is, Woody is what? The ambassador to
Great
London,
Britain now, or
right,
something.
in Great Britain. And his
They turn
idiot
that over.
brother,
Right, they
takes
turn it
over.
Right.
So now, the point is, the Knicks just had, the draft lottery Wednesday night, and only really the New York Jets can knock the Knicks off the front page by making a firing like this. So now what are you going to do? You're going to give your power to Adam Gase. This is not giving it to Vince Lombardi,
Nope.
to George Allen, to Tom Landry, Shula,
To a
and
non-proven
Belichick,
guy.
etc., right?
It's crazy.
So
It's
now, okay, so what you have in your favor is this the time of year to fire a GM? Yeah, everything's pretty much signed. Everything is done. The draft is over. Do you have a guy in place? It sounds like Joe Douglas is the director of player personnel for the Philadelphia Eagles. There's a connection to Gase. I would think that's the guy. And obviously, you need a general manager prior to training camp for late signees.
But
and all
let
this
me
stuff.
even talk. I'll defend.
But the dysfunction does not end for the New York Jets, and it's so inexplicable.
And just like you
I don't
said,
know what else to say.
McCagnon was trending up. He made a great pick in Keenan Williams. I mean, that solidifies the defense. I think they way overpaid for Mosley. I wouldn't.
Great.
I don't. I haven't
Because
seen
basically,
anything.
it's a 3-year deal. You can make it $200 million. It's a 3-year deal.
Okay, and I think
He's an upgrade, man. He's an upgrade.
I don't know. I don't see that kind of money.
I bought C.J. Mosley stock, folks.
Okay, we'll see how it pans out. But I just wanted this. To me, it was the same old
Oh,
Jets.
my God. It's infuriating.
And I can't wait for them to go.
And
6
I'm not
and
even
10.
a Jet fan. And
Neither
I
am
get
I.
infuriated.
Me too. Me too.
So then let's finish the NFL with some breaking news because the audience at Pick knows I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. So my star running back happens to be in the news once again. I get a text from my loyal listener, Anthony Macefield, who said Zeke's in trouble again. And I really have zero defense for Zeke Elliott. I think Zeke is a piece of insert your own expletive into that right now. I don't get it.
What is going on in that clubhouse or that franchise?
It's embarrassing. And now this guy, so we extended him. He's got one more year that I have him under contract. You really got to do a double take. He's as productive of a back as there is.
Right, because he's
But
not going anywhere.
But when does character come into play?
Apparently never in Dallas.
Apparently never.
I mean, I'm sorry.
That is exactly the answer. Apparently never.
That's why
I am so.
That's why they're going to
freaking tired
re-up
of
him
it.
when he comes up. They're going to empty the vault, and he's going to get the money. And I just
see the good news is Zeke wasn't arrested, but again he's got his girlfriend, and again here we are with the Kareem Hunts and all this other, and the Ray Rices, and when do these guys get it, man?
And what drives
When do
me
they get it?
the most crazy about this is when this guy came out, I just said this guy has the potential to be a great history NFL
Making
guy,
guy.
and he's just throwing it all
Why
away.
can't you have the character of an Emmitt Smith?
Curtis Martin?
Oh, God, there's so many.
Walter Payton, all these guys.
Be appreciative of the talent that you have, and you got a window of 10 years to make as much dough as you want and represent your organization with class. And if you want to be a piece of crap afterwards, by all means,
I don't
do what you
understand.
do. But I got to tell you, it's embarrassing as a Cowboy fan, and I don't even know when this all. I don't know how it's going to play out, but I'm sure he'll get a 1 or 2 game suspension. And
No, he's not getting anything. He's going to say, I wasn't arrested.
yeah, well,
You don't have me on videotape kicking a guy around the head
I would imagine.
in an elevator. Anyway, so I'm glad that you brought that up. That just shows your impartiality here to say character does not seem to be an issue in Dallas, Texas.
Or really across the NFL. Like
Okay,
that. Few organizations.
I mean, the Vikings went through this years ago. They had all these guys getting arrested for drinking. I mean, I know there's nothing else to do in Minnesota but drink.
I got it.
But, you know, then
Yeah.
hire a
beer
limousine and
pong,
drive these
right?
guys around. Anyway, so listen, that's a good show. We're going to wrap up with a shout out. And I want to shout out because we got a couple emails. This is to our nephew, Thomas Monahan Jr.
Yes, he was actually going to be my shout out, so I'm glad you beat me to the punch.
Yeah, well, listen, he's loyal, he's on board, and I appreciate. We got a couple emails from him.
Last week, and
Yep.
he's finally heard our show, and he's a busy boy. Works for the Chase organization. Big sports fan.
Well, I'm glad you're on board, our little nephew. Thanks for joining us, and I
Absolutely.
appreciate it. So thanks everybody for joining us.
So also, I want to thank our last sponsor of the show is Mr. Joe Carbone, president of Harley Davidson of Utica.
Yep.
If you need a Harley Davidson motorcycle, do not hesitate to Google him, research him, and mention our show. And Joe is going to accept your phone call and would be most appreciative of it.
Yep.
And thank you, Harley Davidson of Utica.
Yep. They've been with us since the get go.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
And guys, we covered a lot today, guys and gals. So really, we'd love to hear some feedback today on everything we covered. Sports with Mono and Mono at gmail.com. Thank you as always for listening, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye-bye.